Hail travelers, and welcome to the Knight's Realm. Here in the realm of Camelot, I, the Guardian Knight, venture deep into the archives of popular culture and entertainment to bring you all my own perspective on such matters. To any who frequent my channel, it is no secret that I have no love lost for the Michael Bay Transformers films, much to the chagrin of fans of that universe. I have written a multi-episode rewrite series, turning that universe into something closer to what I would have wanted out of cinematic Transformers. It's still imperfect, and I definitely have revised it more if I had the time and budget Bay had. I have critiqued the movies repeatedly in other videos as well, both my video essays and my reviews of Transformers 1, Bumblebee, and Rise of the Beasts. All that to say, I am no great fan of Bay and his team's vision. That being said, eagle-eyed viewers will note that not everything I say about the films is critical. As a matter of fact, there are some things from the movies I quite like, some movies more so than others. And some of those are things I didn't change in my rewrites. There are even things I did change that I still liked. They just didn't fit the story I wanted to tell. So today, I'm going to give the Bayverse its flowers, as it were. Talk about the things that, in my opinion, the Bayverse did right. I will do my best to be positive in this video, but I have no doubt I'll inevitably bring up something negative. So, if you'll forgive me a slip here and there, join me as we delve deep beneath the castle and begin our quest. There are some general aspects that I liked throughout the films. First of those, scale. The Transformers felt big, and I loved that. In many shows, the bots have either inconsistent sizes or feel too small for what their alt modes are supposed to be. The only other shows I feel fully grasped the sheer size of the robots were the Unicron trilogy and Prime. Animated, though the Decepticons were massive enough, the Autobots, except Magnus and Omega Supreme, always felt a little small next to humans. And G1, RID-01, and the comics have pretty constant size shifting. Now the films do size shift a bit, mostly with Optimus, but not quite as much as some comics and cartoons. Another aspect I really like, transformation sequences. They feel epic and involved, and every piece is used to form both robot and vehicle. Optimus's first transformation is one of the single coolest moments in the films. This is part of why I didn't like the pixel forming of the KSI bots in Age of Extinction. It felt like the movies were ditching one of their best parts for a whole faction. And the transformations in the last two movies were a little weaker than the ones in the first three. As much as I dislike the lack of characterization the cons get in these films, I do like how they feel like a threat until the last night. My only issue is that they feel, with the exceptions of Megatron, Starscream, and the Fallen, like growly monsters instead of actual evil characters. And if you want an example of a developed faction of characters that still feels like a threat, the Empire from Star Wars. Especially after watching Andor. Ugh. Characterization and humanization, for lack of a better word, don't have to diminish the intimidation factor of a particular villain. The only time I think it does is in cases of characters that are supposed to be utterly inhuman, like Dracula, Cthulhu, Sauron, or Smaug. I hate the amount of humanization that they tend to give Dracula in movies, but that's a topic for another day. But even those characters, though not humanized, are still characterized beyond evil and scary. Cthulhu less than the others, but that's partially because mystery is kind of his thing. Next general positive, Michael Bay is excellent at action. The fight scenes in these movies are, if not always sensical, consistently epic. The CGI in these films has aged phenomenally. And I honestly think cinematic CG peaked in the 2000s to the early 2010s. Lord of the Rings, early MCU, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, these movies, it all looked and looks incredible. Then things started going downhill around 2014. There's stuff from the 90s that looks better than some stuff from a couple years ago. Like Dragonheart, made in, 96? The dragon in that looks better than a lot of CG creatures from the last few years. Like, these films definitely look better than Rise of the Beasts. Though Bumblebee looks pretty incredible. Another thing I like, voice cast. The bots are all incredibly well casted, even if not all are my preferred type of voice, like British Ironhide. Of course, we have Peter Cullen, Tony Todd, Frank Welker, Hugo Weaving, and Leonard Nimoy, all legendary actors in their own rights, and most of whom were Transformers alumni prior to the films, with Tony Todd becoming an alum with his return as Dreadwing in Prime. But even the less renowned actors all did an excellent job. Most of the human cast were excellent as well, except for most of the main characters. Sam, Tessa, Cade, and Carly were all incredibly poorly acted. Marky Mark has a very specific kind of character he does well, and Cade was not one of those. Shia LaBeouf was never the best actor on the planet, even before he lost his mind. Rosie Huntington was very wooden, and, well, Nicola Peltz is most remembered for the live-action Last Airbender. So, wait. There is no live-action movie in Ba Sing Se. What was I saying? Oh yeah. The rest of the human cast were great, though, even if I didn't always like their characters, but that's the same with the Transformers. I hate Skids and Mudflap, but the acting wasn't the problem with them. The standouts among the humans are definitely Josh Duhamel, however you pronounce it, as Lennox, Tyrese Gibson as Epps, Patrick Dempsey as Gould, Kelsey Grammer as Attinger, Stanley Tucci as Joyce, Megan Fox as Michaela, and John Turturro as Simmons. Those are the general things I enjoy, and now we dive into each individual movie. I've made it no secret that I actually kind of liked the first movie, and my rewrite was honestly more of a polish than anything. But to get into the nitty-gritty, I love the opening scene. Blackout's attack on Qatar is incredible. I love the through-line Decepticon espionage plot with, Frenzy infiltrating. It's really cool. I love the Army Rangers and Pentagon scenes. I love the characters in those scenes, and I wish more of those Army Rangers showed up in future movies. It's pretty much just Epps and Lennox. I think Michaela is a standout character, quite surprisingly. I especially love her actions in the final battle, helping out Bumblebee. This is the movie that has the least amount of designs I hate for the robots. Pretty much just Ratchet and Starscream. Bone Crusher's a bit weird, but not hideous. I really like Megatron in this one. He's not in the film much, but he steals the show when he is. He's a lot like Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs or Darth Vader in the first Star Wars film. He's not there a lot, but when he is, it's great. The final battle is incredible. Sector 7 is a great concept. Archibald Witwicky's story is really cool. Character-wise, Optimus is absolutely perfect in this film. All the issues I have with him in the later films are not present in this first one. And if people want to defend first movie Optimus, I will agree with them. First movie Optimus, I have my issues with his design, but his writing is really good. I honestly think all the bots are characterized well in this one. I mean, Jazz is a little thin in the writing department, likely due to him being the one who dies, but I still like him a lot. The jokes are actually pretty funny in this one, with the exception of a lot of the cringier ones centered around Sam. And if I'm being 100% honest, Sam is the biggest problem with this movie. That and Optimus's plan at the end being a little confusing. Had Sam been better written, less weird, and didn't steal the scene from the bots, this movie would jump up several spots in my personal ranking of Transformers properties. Because the core of this movie, I am a fan of, but man does the Witwicky plot drag it down immensely. And there's a few Bayisms I'm not fond of, sure. But I have gone out of my way to re-watch this one outside of my job or curiosity, and that's not something I can say for the rest. I have watched Dark of the Moon more than many of the others, but I haven't since my last rewrite. Mostly because dissecting that movie made me enjoy it less, which is not the case with this first one. But we'll come back to Dark of the Moon in a bit. First... Okay, this one's going to be rough. I do not like this movie at all, and I have made that no secret. But there are some things to appreciate about it. First, the forest battle. Amazing scene, great fight, peak of the movie, best action in all of these movies. I also do like the opening, the hunting down of the hidden Decepticons, with the exception of Optimus's execution of Demolisher. Needless brutality aside, why not capture and interrogate him? You don't know what the Fallen is, so why not try to figure it out instead of dropping a one-liner and then going, oh gee, wonder what that was all about. Okay, positivity. Megatron's return was awesome. Tony Todd was great, but sadly wasted, as the Fallen. Egypt as a setting, really cool, but I was an ancient Egypt kid, so I'm not hard to please. Slap a pyramid or a mummy in front of me and I'll have a good time, unless the movie sucks. Looking at you, 2017 Tom Cruise The Mummy. The Brendan Fraser ones are much better. Too bad they never made a third one. What do you mean they made one set in China? You're delusional. Anyway, this movie actually has the best moment for Sam's parents, one of the few moments I actually liked them. When Ron breaks down and shouts, "You're my son," there at the end, trying to protect Sam. I actually felt emotion at that, which is rare for human-centered moments in these films. I think it's just that one, bring them home from the first one, Michaela's momentary breakdown also in the first one, watching the bots leave in the third one, and Joyce realizing the weight of what he did in the fourth one. The desert battle is also cool, though not as good as the forest one. Devastator's transformation, in terms of sheer scale and spectacle, awesome. I just hate the gorilla look. Simmons was really funny, though I did not need to see John Turturro's thong-clad backside. There was far too much sexual humor in this one. What the heck? It's a Transformers movie, guys. Jetfire being a blackbird, that was pretty neat. That's pretty much all I like about Jetfire. Wait, nope, I actually do like that we got Jetwing Prime, but that's because I'm an Armada boy. That was hype. The Pretender was a neat callback, even if she was unnecessarily sexy. Yeah, I'm really blanking beyond that. Oddly enough, this will not be the one I praise the least. Dark of the Moon has the strongest opening and strongest final act of the entire film franchise. But the latter half of the first act and the decent chunk of the second act really drag it down. But, positives. Human collaborators, really cool plot. I love how creepy Laserbeak is. The entire opening sequence, perfection. Shockwave looks great. Sentinel and Megatron both had the beginnings of a great character arc. We just needed more time with both of them, especially Sentinel, before he went dark. Optimus meeting Buzz Aldrin was just a hype moment for nerds everywhere. We finally got Prime's trailer and a super mode. Mirroring was a well-done, infuriating character. Alan Tudyk is an international treasure, and Dutch was a standout character. The invasion was epic. The entire Battle of Chicago was excellent. Optimus's philosophy being challenged by Sentinel was great. The duel with Sentinel was even better than the Megatron fight in the first one. Carly confronting Megatron was great, despite the limitations of the actress. Less of Sam's parents in this one, so that's a bonus. Honestly, most of my issues in this movie, much like with the first one, come in the Sam scenes, but also Optimus's brutality growing in intensity and missed opportunities with the ending. If the middle portion of this movie were as strong as the beginning and third act, this would be a good movie. As it stands, it's like we have the confrontation on Weathertop and the Council of Elrond at the beginning, Helm's Deep at the end, and an Adam Sandler movie spliced together with a political drama in the middle. We go from some of the franchise's highest highs to some of its middest mids. One of the best scenes is Optimus talking with Sentinel before the betrayal. It's one of only a few moments like this where the Transformers themselves get a moment of stillness, without drama or comedy or action. Just two characters interacting like people, giving us a glimpse of who they are when they aren't fighting. Typically in these films, those movies take the form of two or more humans or a human and a Transformer. Not all of those are bad. I've mentioned some of the human ones I like in the Revenge of the Fallen section. Optimus's pep talk with Sam in the second one, his chat with Cade in the fourth one, any scene with Optimus dressing down a political official, I really like. And they are all about Optimus. One might notice a trend at this point. I like these films until Sam becomes the focus, and that's a big part of why I really don't like Revenge of the Fallen, because he's pretty much the sole focus until the end. But what about when Sam isn't there? Well... Okay, I like the premise of Age of Extinction a lot. The Autobots in hiding, and the humans turning on them in the wake of Chicago, combined with the concept of man-made Transformers, is pretty sweet. It feels very A-Team, accused of a crime they didn't commit on the run from the government. I like that the bots in this movie actually do have character, something I wouldn't really have been able to say since the first one. Even if I think Hound had the wrong name, Drift was too stereotypical, and I just don't care about Crosshairs. And B and Prime are there too. I think that the idea of Optimus questioning his morals when it comes to killing or even harming humans is great character drama. Or it would be if he didn't jump to, "I'll kill you. They're going to die," immediately. If you're going to introduce a paradigm shift to a character, it needs to either make sense or be established over time. I'll give a couple of bad examples, and then I'll give a good example. First, Luke in The Last Jedi, and Daenerys in Season 8 of Game of Thrones. Luke, back in Return of the Jedi, was willing to die on the off chance that Darth Vader, someone who had committed countless atrocities over the course of 20-something years, could be redeemed. Then his nephew, who hadn't even done anything, had some troublesome feelings and was tempted, just tempted, by the dark side, and Luke drew his sword on him while he slept. Vader killed children, tortured people, cut off Luke's hand, slaughtered innocents, and conquered planets in the Empire's name, and then turned on his own order. And Luke insisted that there was still good in him. Luke would never even think of drawing his sword on anyone, let alone a family member, without provocation. Had Ben attacked first and Luke was forced to fight back, that would track. Or, even better, had Luke's failure been inaction, refusal to believe that Ben would give in to the darkness, or an arrogant belief that as he had saved Vader, he could save Ben too. That would be far, far better reasoning for Luke to feel like he failed the galaxy. It would still be in character, and it would explain why he went into self-imposed exile. It would make perfect sense. That way, the paradigm shift between the determined young Luke and the bitter old Luke would make sense. His optimism and pride end up being what doomed the galaxy, not him drawing a lightsaber on a sleeping teenager with dark thoughts. There was a way to make that shift work, but Rian Johnson did it in a way that was incredibly out of character, all for the sake of subversion. And speaking of subversion, Dany. Dany going full Targaryen madness also could have worked. We see semblances of a dark side in her throughout the story, though one tempered by her innate altruism and the wisdom of her counselors. Had her altruism been tainted, had she been long bereft of any wisdom, and I mean long, like multiple seasons, had Tyrion been written like he is in the books, had it not been a last-minute change brought about in the course of 2 episodes, Dany going dark side might have worked. Again, the idea makes sense, just like with Luke, and just like with Optimus in this movie. But Optimus and Dany both turn on a dime, and Luke just acts entirely out of character for a brief moment, and suddenly Kylo Ren. And I don't want to hear people have lapses in judgment all the time. First of all, that's a bit of an oversimplification. Second of all, characters aren't people. If something massively out of character is going to happen in fiction, it needs to be set up. For real people, that setup, quote-unquote, is our internal thoughts. We don't always see another person's internal thoughts. We don't see what causes a person to turn on the dime. But in fiction, characters don't have that luxury. The audience needs to be privy to those thoughts that drive a character to the brink. If not sequentially, then retroactively. Otherwise, we're just left going, but why? Besides, I'm pretty sure people don't draw weapons on their emo family members all the time. Here's a good example of how to do this, of how to have a character completely shift. Frodo in Lord of the Rings. Frodo is worn down over the course of the trilogy by the ring and the many hardships he's faced. So when he says, "The ring is mine," right there on the crack of doom, it makes sense. We see, in both the books and the movies, Frodo little by little eroding away. We see it subtly through his internal monologue in the books, and more obviously, because it's a movie, in the movies with his external attitude shift. It is believable that we can go from the innocent, kind, altruistic Frodo of the beginning to the broken down Frodo of the end, because we've seen it happen. We've seen the Ring, the War, Gollum, Shelob, the Witch King, Gandalf's death, and everything else take its toll on Frodo. So his previously indomitable will failing right at the end makes perfect sense. And even after the ring is destroyed, Frodo's more melancholy attitude before he ends up sailing to Valinor also makes sense. One of my favorite moments is when he steps on the ship and we, through Sam's eyes, see the weight lift off of him for the first time since Weathertop. Such a beautiful moment. The point of this side tangent is that had we actually given Optimus's mood shift time, by which I mean time on screen, to gestate, I would have liked it. It makes sense that after everything he's gone through, he would break down. But I want to see the breakdown. I don't want it to go from, I will defend them, and I will sacrifice everything for them, too. I'm gonna kill them. I want to see it gestate. I like the concept, but the execution is where it failed, much like Luke, and much like Daenerys. Back to positives, Megatron suddenly manipulating things is very reminiscent of Animated, and I love that. Attinger is a great villain. Lockdown was pretty good too. Grimlock and Scorn look cool. I have my beef with the other Dinobots. Bumblebee losing his mind at the Stinger display made me laugh. As I mentioned earlier, I like the scene with Cade and Optimus talking about their kids, Tessa and Bumblebee. Joyce's epiphany is great, and I like him as a character in general. The comedy in this movie mostly worked for me. Mostly. TJ Miller being TJ Miller aside, I thought Lucas was pretty funny. Evasion Mode Prime, given a nice coat of paint, is a neat design. Bumblebee's initial design I also like, though I'm not as much of a fan of his final mode. We got Frank Welker as Megatron finally, so that's a win. Megatron's going to be the harbinger of some more wins as we go to the final one. Megatron looks better than ever. Barricade looks cool. The Knights look cool. Nitro Zeus looks cool. Anthony Hopkins is in this one. Cogman is funny. Lennox is back. That's pretty much it. The old adage that the Bay movies only get worse as they go isn't entirely true. The first one is almost incredible. You just cut out some weird stuff and it'll be excellent. The second one is just awful. The third one is a step up from the second, but a step down from the first. The fourth is great in concept, but weak in execution, though still better than the second. The fifth is somehow worse than the second. The reason why I abandoned The Last Night entirely in my rewrites is because I couldn't think of anything worth salvaging in the story or character department. Though, as I look back, I probably would have used TLK Megatron's image for Megatron in these movies, and I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't, but I like Prime Megatron's design, so that's why I use it, I guess. Even in Revenge of the Fallen, I struggled for similar reasons. There are people who may think that I did the rewrites because I hate the films, but that's only half true. The real reason I took up that project was because I saw the glimmer of a good story there, hence why I'm taking on the DCEU and the Star Wars sequels. Those also aren't all bad, and I think that giving a bit more care and polish, they have the potential to be good. Something just bad with no redeeming qualities I wouldn't rewrite. I'd completely gut it and write something completely original. Hence why I abandoned the idea to rewrite RID 2015. That's why the Arrowverse, Spider-Man 3, Dark Knight Rises, and the G.I. Joe movies appeal to me as rewrite material. There's good stuff in there, just buried under mediocrity. Honestly, one of the biggest issues I have with the Bayverse, the DCEU, the sequels, Spider-Man 3, Dark Knight Rises, and the Arrowverse, is that there is a lot that I like, just buried under a lot more that I don't. I mean, the first rewrite video I did was Season 3 of Transformers Prime, my favorite Transformers show. I just wanted to make Season 3 feel as incredible as the first two, hence that video. The rewrite series is me making something good out of something bad, mediocre, or disappointing. Both putting my money where my mouth is, and trying to make something positive out of something negative. If I just wanted to dunk on the movies, I'd release reviews of them. Believe me, they'd be scathing. Even in my Rise of the Beast retrospective, where I was somewhat more negative, I tried to find things I liked, and in that same token, there were things I didn't like in Bumblebee, a movie that I really enjoy. There's things I don't like in the prequels and original trilogy of Star Wars, but in those cases, what I like exceeds what I don't. There's things in The Lord of the Rings, both the books and the movies, that I don't like, but the good heavily outweighs the bad. And as this video shows, I hope that for all the bad in the Bay films, they did, at some point, get some things right. Thank you all for joining me on my quest. If you enjoy the video and like what I do here, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. If you'd like to support the channel further, consider joining the Knights Realm Patreon or becoming a member here on YouTube for $1 or $1.99 a month respectively, and get access to exclusive content, including videos not available on the main channel and supercuts of my rewrites. More of that will be coming soon. Alternatively, if you'd like to vote on future video or series topics, you can join at $5 or $5.99 a month. First poll will go live when the first part of Man of Steel goes up. If you'd just like to make a one-time donation, you can always leave a super thanks in the comments down below. In any case, I will see you all in our next adventure, whenever that may be.